I'm delighted to have David Hill, CTO from Oka-Bi, on the Tech Talk today, where we'll look into the success in data analytics and address three key areas that impacts the failure rate of these projects. So over to you, David. Great to have you on. And yeah, do you want to give a brief intro about yourself and your background?
Thanks, Ben. Great to be here. So as you mentioned, CTO of Oka-Bi, around at least 10 years now, 25 years in the industry, working like applications to start with, and then onto data warehouse and analytics, architecture, and beyond. So, as well as being heavily involved in IT, do like a bit of electronic music production. I'm a proud Beagle owner, and I'm an advocate for neurodiversity as well. So, and we've got 2 kids to raise as well. So it's we're always fairly busy. So it's really great to be here to talk about basically like addressing the failure rate for analytics projects around the world. So yeah, great to be here.
Good. Yeah, no, I mean, according to Gartner, it's obviously 85% of projects fail. So it's a really high number. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic. And I know, sort of speaking to other business leaders, they're always looking at ways to. It's a massive topic for business leaders. I know data initiatives are a costly investment for businesses. Obviously, there's and yet, I mean, even some yet they don't get the they don't seem to get the they struggle to find a valuable outcome from delivering them, even though they've spent. Projects can vary from $500,000 to millions, can't they?
Exactly.
So making sure that they get obviously set clear goals must be key from the start. Because obviously there's a lot involved with projects, isn't there? You've got the data technology, and then also you've got the implementation, which is key. So obviously today we're going to look at the 3 key areas. So obviously the first one is looking at the complexity of projects, which can impact these. So I mean, for yourself, what's within this complexity of projects? Obviously you've been involved on numerous projects. What is this, and why does this impact businesses?
Yeah, so couple of interesting points you made there around. So first of all, the stat that you mentioned, the Gartner stat is like, it's Nick Hoydecker mentioned this was back about five years ago, I think it was, that the 60% failure rate was too conservative, and that he felt that it was more like 85%. And this is actually in the era of cloud, remember? So cloud was around, it was already a thing back in 2017. So it's like really key to understand that. And with it being, Gartner calling out, I think it's like a really interesting call out that they made at the time. And things haven't changed that much. So I think that number, 60 to 85%, is still quite a relevant and salient number. But in terms of complexity, you'll find that the size of a program or project may not reflect the complexity. So you can have small, complex programs, but you can have large programs that haven't got maybe as much complexity, or you can have large and complex programs as well. But in terms of the cross-cutting aspects that are really important for delivery of any analytics capability for a customer, one of the major things that typically results in a failed program is governance, or the lack of. So governance in terms of making sure that all aspects of the project or program are correctly run with one objective in mind, which is the delivery of the program or delivery of the platform normally. And this can be things like ensuring that you've got a really well constructed program plan or project plan, down to like some like smaller details like defining the job roles for people that are actually on the project and what they're going to do. So you'll typically find business analyst, data solution, enterprise architects sometimes who have got a vested interest in analytics projects. But it's really critical that people understand what their role is within a project or program, because otherwise it can be really critically bad when assumptions are being made in terms of where a particular person's role starts and ends. So that's really important. And I've seen programs like which have been run like that, where assumptions are made around, well, I'll pick this up and you pick that up, but then it's not actually written down. So that can result in just assumptions, and then tasks don't actually get delivered because people think others are picking up that task. So that's a really key thing. Another aspect is you've obviously got for major enterprise programs, you've got like vast amounts of information, data being processed. So it's really important to have solid platform level patterns that are really easily understood and communicable and recorded. And that can be that you can have it where basically programs change architecture mid-flight, and all the technical delivery people are brought on board. So it's really important to get that kind of like baseline. So I equate delivering an analytics program to like building a house. You need firm foundations, otherwise the house is going to collapse. And if you change the foundations a lot, then obviously the house is going to be at risk of falling over. So it's a very good analogy, actually, and one that I use a lot with senior stakeholders. So because it's very easily understood. Programs are like, you need an architect to build a house. You have, bricklayers, the coders, who actually are there to actually construct the more detailed elements of the house itself. So it's a very it's a key analogy, that one, and it demonstrates that without those foundations in place, things can get really dicey. And 3 to 5 years after you started the program, what you don't want to be doing is embarking on a replatforming or a rebuild. So it's like really critical that the complexity is managed and that everyone's brought on the journey of actually building out the platform.
Yeah, no, it's good analogy. Obviously, nobody wants a lopsided house. So
no, that Leaning Tower of Pisa. I mean, it's a miracle it's still standing, really, isn't it? But, and I've worked on programs that have been like that, but where we've had to pivot quickly to actually to get the delivery over the line. But I've one story is that there was a consulting project I was working on, and there was just assumptions made around what business analysts were doing, what data architects were doing, and there was a real blending of roles. And when the timelines compress, that's where you feel the pain the most, because when timelines compress, which can happen, everyone needs to know really what they're doing and how they are interacting with other workers. So it's it can be, if you're not careful, quite problematic.
Yeah, I bet. And then, I think obviously you made another good point. Obviously, the data governance. I think that's going to be a massive area now. We've seen it with our clients. They've started. We have getting like just roles solely focused on data governance now. When before, we weren't. Maybe it's incorporated into another role, but it's just obviously seen the strong focus on this area now. And like I said, we've seen that with many clients now. They're looking to build up on that space. Because it is going to, I think, like I say, it's going to be critical for businesses moving forward. So, I mean, with complexity of projects, obviously, I think another thing we tend to see is obviously a lot of businesses have different applications. And I guess the integrating that within the business is a challenge. So do you think that impacts businesses a lot?
I think so. You know, a lot of it depends on the timelines, but what you'll find is, you know, if you're going into, you know, an existing mature corporation, for example, there'll be lots of different types of systems with, you know, different types of data recorded, and what I would describe as different rhythms in terms of how the data is basically ingested and then kind of like disseminated across the enterprise. So you've got to be mindful of these kind of like patterns and variations in terms of how data flows across the enterprise. And because that will have a massive effect in terms of how you harness it and bring it into the, you know, the data warehouse or lakehouse or whatever it is you want to build out. So it's really important to have those, the understanding of, like, you know, exactly how data flows across an enterprise, because you're going to need to pull it all together and integrate it in, like, you know, a central data architecture model, like, you know, Kimball Star Schema or Data Vault 2 is quite popular as well. So it's really important that you get an understanding of that, because it will basically define how the you know, how the system is constructed from a data architecture perspective. So yeah, that's a really good point actually. And you know, one of the key things is, you know, with regards to other reasons why programs can be you know, can become part of this like 60 to 80% statistic, is like resource constraints. So, and this isn't really it's partially technical, this, but it's you can have resource constraints in terms of budget. You can have constraints in terms of you know, a shortage of skilled professionals. I know that's kind of like the area that you work in. So it's really, it must be quite hard to find people who match the skill sets that the client needs in order to deliver out. What are really important platforms for any organisation. So there's definitely, I'd say in the last 10 years especially, there's like a real shortage of skilled professionals to actually execute these kinds of analytics ventures that a customer needs. So I think it'd be good to know what your thoughts are as well, you know, in terms of, you know, the wider resourcing side, because I think that can impact a project in terms of availability and even like where the project is going to be delivered. Having people, you know, travel to a particular part of the world to deliver that project.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, like I say, obviously, it's for field and hiring, like speaking to clients. There's a lot of different factors that apply. Obviously, if your client's based in one of the major cities, it's obviously there's more talent, there's more people, so you tend to find it a lot more easier.
Yeah.
But then also you've got businesses, they want to build an in-house team instead of like using external contractors or freelancers. So I mean, it's a difficult one to answer. Like, it's dependent on requirement, because we've had, like I say, clients, different locations, and some, it's all like they've all got different factors involved. Like, they will use contractors or they'll use remote workers, or but like we've definitely seen over the last years that companies now are getting more flexible with like remote workers, because, and they like they want projects delivered yesterday pretty much, don't they? And like time is crucial. So if they're spending, say, 6 months to find a permanent resource, obviously that's a lot of time wasted, or a lot more additional expense if they've had to go down the freelance or consultancy option. So yeah, no, it's definitely like, I think since the pandemic, obviously it's opened up gates, isn't it? Because I mean, we've seen like even businesses now, they're opening up. Obviously, they've got offices. If most got offices globally, they've sort of put the work out across Europe, say. So, or we've got other clients that will they'll hire anyone across Europe. So again, there's different factors involved with different businesses. It's their different processes. Everyone's got a different way, isn't it? So
yeah, it's definitely a blend of different factors, isn't it? In terms of, one customer that was situated in a fairly remote areas in the UK, and one of the although they were committed to a particular cloud, they felt that they wanted to use the cloud because it was so popular that they felt that they could get people traveling. This was pre-COVID. They felt they could get people traveling to their site because the cloud that they selected was fairly popular and well, extremely popular actually, and so they felt that would be something that they could leverage to get people to travel to their site, which was due to the amount of personal data that was processed. That was like a really big requirement, was for people to be on site. So yeah, I think it has loosened up last like 3 or 4 years, but I think the security requirements now are much higher as a result.
Yeah, well, I mean obviously that's a different topic, but security. I mean, security is a massive field now, isn't it? I mean, if you are working remotely, and especially if you're working in like a more like a field that contains a lot of data and personal data, obviously it's crucial. You've got the right security in place, or you could have all sorts of issues.
Yeah, you have to include, like remote officers as part of the kind of security regime that you put in place for the program. So you can see like more and more customers now utilizing things like VPNs because it gives like encrypted lines into the business network. So it's like it's absolutely critical now that is rolled out. Not only within the platform but within the development teams that are are delivering these solutions remotely. So it's like really important aspect of this.
And I think also with like the resource constraints on the hiring aspect, they need to, obviously whoever they use, if they use an internal team or external recruiters, they just need to make sure that they're clued up on their market, so they can you're not going to be able to find remote sort of permanent resources. You may need to go down the remote option, just giving that guidance, because again, time is crucial, and just if end day you want to be delivering as soon as possible, because that's going to minimise obviously the failure rate, because you want to be delivering as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
So then I guess anything else you want to add in terms of resource constraints, or?
I think we've pretty much covered that. In terms of there was one just to kind of like bring it to life with a story. There was one program was involved. It was like a fixed price data warehouse. So that was constrained not in terms of the personnel, but in terms of the budget and the amount of budget that was assigned to it. So that was pretty high risk venture, because there was a fixed amount of time and to deliver the entire platform. So that's another type of resource constraint, but more on the financial side, that can result in when timelines compress and you're on a fixed price delivery, that can be you need to be very switched on to get yourself through that situation, which we did fortunately on that project. But yeah, I think the most key point is actually the last one, which is around stakeholder involvement and stakeholder buy-in. So I think that's like I saw you put a poll out yesterday, and that came back as like the number one voted aspect, which I can totally understand, really.
Yeah, no, I just did the poll, and obviously 52% come back saying that was one of the key impacts. So I mean, it's understandable, because there's a lot to go in onto a project, isn't it? I mean, especially during these times as well. I mean, look, there's obviously a lot of businesses have been impacted, like with funding, etc. So money. So you need, obviously things will change, because obviously most companies have had to make an impact, make a reduction in their budgets just to align this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess I was touching on sort of stakeholder engagement. Is there anything is it just changes to like the objectives, or check that is the big challenge, or is it aligning the technical aspect to the business side? Is it sort of giving the education bit in between?
Yeah, both? I think you've hit the nail on the head with the use of the word objectives. And I think one of the key things is that, so normally you find a really good platform will come out of a digital transformation. So there'll be a strategic initiative within the customer to actually roll out, a load of capabilities, of which the data analytics, data warehouse, or lakehouse will be like one of the cornerstones of it. So it's really important to have visibility, at CXO level in terms of why the platform is going in, why it's been requested and funded. And because then what that can lead to is that, if things get a bit, if there's like difficulties with timeline, further funding of the program, it's really important that you have that buy-in from the top, because then it has got that into like the executive kind of like visibility, which can only help support the delivery of the program in difficult times. And these are complex systems that are being architected and engineered. So it's really important to have, an executive kind of like, being briefed on the status of the project, because sometimes it is needed to have that executive support. And without it, things can get a bit dicey, because people don't understand why the analytics platform is being rolled out, and therefore it isn't really married up to the needs of the CEO or CXO suite. So that's a really important point to actually always have. I can understand why 52% have come back with that option, because without having a strategic kind of like backing for the data analytics platform, it really can become lost in terms of what it's there to do. So that's a really critical aspect, and that lots of projects probably goes to the wall because of that reason. Because even though they're delivering value, it's not communicated up to the highest levels of an organization. So when you've got that link to the highest levels of exec in an organization, it goes a long way to help the delivery. Because any platform of this type, they're technical, but they are there for a reason, and it's not just there to enable architects to architect and programmers to program. They are there to actually deliver a capability for the business, and so it should always be thought of in that way, and thought of as a halfway house between technical and business delivery. And when you get that invariably results in a successful delivery.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the success of a data implementation there's massive opportunities for businesses in terms of their products, services, efficiency. So it's obviously getting everyone aligned. See, it's a challenge, like any project, but obviously there's the benefits if done correctly. So obviously a lot of them do obviously not meet their intended objectives. So I guess how can businesses reduce this? 85 is it's really high. So how can businesses sort of go about reducing this rate?
I think just touching on a few points I've already made. First of all, get your governance sorted out. So understand how the project and program is going to be run, resource the right roles if need be. Another really key one is to ensure that anybody who works on a project or a program of this nature should be dedicated to it. It's very, very hard to have, for example, like an engineering team support, being third line support on an existing system or systems, but also delivering the data warehouse or data lakehouse. So these things are like really critical aspects that need to be thought of up front. So you might find that teams will be seconded if a warehouse is going to be delivered internally. then you would normally find an entire team seconded onto the program so that they can focus on it, because they are, not just on the technical side, but they are very involved in terms of, the amount of focus you've got to give to the task at hand. So you really need to be working on that program and only that. So I think there's some like fundamentals from a technical side. I think a couple of things that really do help. First of all, is like you can employ automation, for example. And we've like, as of this year, we've entered officially the era of AI, and you can see there's some amazing things happening with OpenAI, and there's just numerous co-pilots being announced by Microsoft as well. So this is definitely like a really key and pivotal era in data analytics. And so I think automation can really play a big part in that, much more than it has done in the past, actually, given the ability of these large language models to automate not just text but code as well. So I think there's some like really amazing things happening in that space. Some other more advanced areas are, so let's say, for example, you've got a program and it's like, a multinational, multi-vertical analytics program. Then there are some, I wouldn't call it an emerging architecture, it's been around for a while, but the data mesh is really interesting in the way that it can kind of like divide and conquer, like really super massive analytics programs into more digestible wholes. And that, I think, has got really good potential to take that, or to vastly reduce that 85% or 60%, whichever one you want to pick. So that's got good potential to actually reduce that number and to deliver, outcomes that customers actually need. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that emerges in the coming years. Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. No, cool. No, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, a lot. I mean, there's a lot of different options out there for businesses. I guess just applying it to their situation, because I mean, everyone's environment is different. So yeah, I guess just applying the right techniques, and also I think a big thing is change management, and obviously that's the big factor, isn't it? If you're so used to doing something one way, changing to do something else, it can obviously that's the big challenge, I think, with businesses as well. That's just, some people are rigid in their ways, others are a bit more flexible, or are flexible. So be interesting times ahead, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in data analytics, change is the only constant, really. And and as an agent of change for the last 25 years, I can tell you that there are a lot of people who don't like it, but it's and some changes are for the better, but not all. And I think one of the key aspects is maturity, changing with the times, but also, and this is like a really fundamental point as well, is that you need to ensure that your architecture is mature as well. So I think that's a really key aspect of how to roll out these programs. And I think especially in today's marketplace, where there's so many different tools, architectures, clouds, ways of working, to actually harness that and to for the benefit of the customer is I wouldn't say it's getting more difficult. It's more diverse, I think, now than it was 10 years ago. So yeah, it's always an interesting field to work in. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what the future brings, really.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Well, it's been good conversation. Really enjoyed that. Thanks for your time. And yeah, like you say, let's see what the future holds.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Good to be here, and have a good day. Thanks, mate.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.